Hi again. So here we are, and it's episode 17. And we're just going to start talking. Not necessarily saying what the topic is, not necessarily speaking about. Hold on just a second. What was that all about? So, what distracts you? You know, maybe you wake up in the day. That was just a fun little example right there, okay? Hold on just a second. Yeah, right. I've been thinking a lot about this. What keeps you, what keeps me, what keeps any of us? Think deeply. What really keeps you from doing exactly what you have these optimal thoughts about and images of what you see your optimal self doing and being in this way of when you get influenced in the world by something, and it might state that something on the outside that says, hey, wow, I want to do that. So we get these thoughts and images, and then is it something that gets initiated immediately? And is it perfectly orchestrated and dialogued into a schedule, and you have a perfect 100% skin in the game endeavor with it, say, okay? And how many times in a day do we say, hold on just a second? Now, there might be a good time to say that. But what is it that prevents any of us, you, from doing exactly what you want to, this optimal thing? And then at what point in not doing it do we just kind of settle that we didn't do it? And then how do we feel about that in living the rest of our life, knowing that we didn't do what we really wanted to do? Maybe this isn't even making sense. Maybe this doesn't even happen to anybody. Does that happen to anybody at all, do you think? Am I just running up some alley by myself, screaming, frantically to the darkness?
I would say no. I know I do. Oh my gosh, distraction. And distraction, usually it's, and we invite it, meaning, do you go home and you say, I should go on a walk, or wake up in the morning, I should go sit in the backyard and wait for the sunrise to come? So that's a choice. And a lot of the time, I think we turn on a screen, and because it distracts us from the thing that I know sometimes I need to do, and then I find out, and then what excuses am I willing to make to avoid it? So I think we are all guilty of this at some point in our life, or most of the time, majority of the time we do it. And I think, speaking for me personally, sometimes it just downright is fear is what would halt me because you said think deeply about that, and it's like digging deep, and then that fear of like, if it is involving someone else, is it involving just myself? A lot of the time it's easier for me to do something when it's just on me. And so, because there's maybe in my mindset there's a little bit more control there than having other parties involved, where it's like, wait, Spirit, you want me to go talk to this person? I don't know this person. Or let's say I do know this person, but am I going to open a can of worms by saying this? Is it a form of Pandora's box? I don't know if I should do that. Here, let me turn on Instagram. And then I don't do it. So I think for me, when I dig deep, The answer is yes, and it's usually some fear.
Okay, so I'm going to hit on a couple things about that, because right away, just kind of saying that it's a choice, and you used the word should. So I want to talk about, what I call grammatics or language that induces results that we truly want, but not just stalling at want. Making ourselves. Do you hear that? Making myself. Okay, how do I make myself? I initiate every single aspect of what it takes, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, to get the result. So, any of us can do that. And knowing that any of us can do that, that we can, that you can, he can, any of us can do this, knowing that we possibly fall short in this dialogue of language. So I'm trying to hit this idea of language so that we can eliminate words like should. We can eliminate words like, or phrases like, you make me so angry when you do that. Okay? Mm-hmm. And so we want to talk about these things that take away from, that distract from the essence of the truest vibration of whatever that discussion is on inner dialogue or conversive dialogue with another, so that it is to its truest form, its truest vibration, without being put over here, swept under a rug. I'll get to it later. Oh, I wonder, all of a sudden I'm on my phone and then it's dark and I wanted to go on my walk when it was light, or whatever you say to yourself. So, I should. No, we're not going to talk about I should anymore. I'm just going to. Just downright going to. Okay? If you can think about the things that you do make yourself do that you don't want to do, like in the sense of, I got to go to work. Okay? Just a simplicity of something like that even. And maybe you love to get up and go to work every day. Maybe you're just dialed in and you love it. That's great, I think. Okay. Now, this other part, though, for a lot of people, because I hear a lot of language out there, and this part of, oh gosh, I hate Mondays, or I'm okay with Mondays, but Wednesdays are hard. Well, why not just have every moment be this homeostasis, okay? Yes, things happen. Yes, we are influenced. Yes, there are impulsive activities. Yes, there are things that can bring, you brought up another word called fear. We're going to come to that, okay? But think about this. I should go on a walk. I'm going to no matter what. You also brought up this idea of how we might get distracted when spirit calls upon us. So there's this us calling upon us, like, hey, guess what? I'm going to drink water instead of, I don't know, maybe you drink Pepsi, okay, and you drink a ton of it, say, like 64 ounces a day. And let's say that you want to displace that with drinking water, like the last episode, okay? So you're thinking about making a change. You're thinking about doing something that will bring about a starting point, a better than, so bringing in the water at least half of the time that you were doing the Pepsi. And maybe that way you can just kind of hopefully evolve into something more moderate, if you will, but something where you're disciplined. Because when we say never again or always, and sometimes those are necessary, sometimes they also deflect. And so where's this idea of I should, and there's a choice, and I'm sometimes influenced by my own thinking of I should, and I didn't, and then there's this other time and times for us when spirit might, or we get an impulse, a feeling, a gut feeling that says, And then maybe we don't act on that because it seems like, what if it's not true? How am I going to feel or look? What if I don't want to embarrass them? I don't want to embarrass me, you know? So this questioning, okay, then that takes away from our truest form as well. And like I was saying, we want to somehow, and I hope this is making sense, okay? It is to me. I hope I can roundhouse this around. This is a lot of information because, you know, when we think about all of the things that we allow, okay, think about that we allow to come into our space, that we allow in order to deflect or through fear not engage or initiate something towards a better than scenario, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Every one of us, you know, I would think even somebody that you think is probably in the best condition and that they seem to have, you know, everything in life. I would imagine that if you went up and asked them if they were completely satisfied, completely gratified in every single area of their life, their relationships, their own dialogue of self, or if it's a challenge for them day to day in order to make themselves do things that they have come to learn that if they don't, they seem to do less than. When they do, they seem to do better than, if that makes sense. And if you did ask them, I would think that they would say something along those lines that says, yeah, you know, gotta put some skin in the game, and I want more. You know I can do more. It might not be like I want more material things, but it becomes a thing of, no, you know, I can do better in my relationships. I can do better in service. I can become, you know, a compassionate, you know, rather than an avoider, or things like that. Okay, so this again hits on so many, on all levels, let's say, instead of our lives. So what is it? You wake up in the morning and maybe you just have all these things you want to get done. Maybe you get them done, but what is it that you want in the long run? Do you look forward ever and think, you know, I wonder what I'm doing today, I wonder what that will look like and what I'll look like with that 10 years from now? Sometimes when we forward think or backwards walk, we're able to have perspective shift. We're able to see the ways that if we need to backtrack a little bit to get back on path, we're familiar with that. We know how to navigate better. We know how to say, okay, I remember that point right there, and that was where I was doing good. So I'm going to get to that because that's where I left off. That's where I got off the trail. See, this is about like when you get lost in the wilderness, you know, oh, shiny, you know, whatever this is, what we make fun of as a squirrel mentality is a human mentality. Okay, and they say that the attention span is so weak these days as to that when you're really doing your marketing and advertising, that, you know, a third of a second, you know, whatever that is, a third of a second, you know, this you know, I say, you know what, hey, you know, why are we still projecting all of this energy towards, as a conglomerate, a collective community of people, more information as a conglomerate, a collective, more information on the negative, destructive side coming to the daily windows of people through their phones? I wonder, you know, if you ran some numbers on when anyone in this world starts going through their phone, what's the percent of content that you would stop on that would give you the greatest value in your life, that would just be your golden nugget right there, your ticket, your breakthrough? And yet, that's the scrolling sound. So as we scroll rather than scan, scanning means walk slowly. Let every step we take upon this Mother Earth be taken in a sacred manner. Each step is a prayer. And then let that power of a pure heart be planted as a seed. and it will grow in your heart. See, this is a quote from Black Elk, Oglala Sioux, back, like, I don't know, late 1800s, okay? And so when we think about that, we think about our approach, you think about all these episodes. It's not just an episode of topic material. It's kind of like a journey. And so when you think about this, and you can think about a sacred approach to things, a sacred approach to yourself, and a sacred approach to your life. And if you have children, and you might be struggling inside, and usually we don't talk about these things. I know I don't, okay? When I'm weak, I don't want people to know I'm weak. That's why you see all this other stuff where people look so positive, let's say, or their life seems so glamorous, but, when you get them around the fire, in the wilderness, in a small circle where there's no phones, no world, nothing out there, then what is important? Then what are the priorities? Then what is the focus? Then what, see, and how did it get to be a focus and a priority anyway? Well, because there are things that we allow to be distractive. We can't blame anyone, When we start blaming things, hey, you make me so, we're selling out our power. It's like saying let's say in a husband-wife relationship, okay? And the husband, is saying, to his wife, you make me so angry when you do those things. It just makes me so angry. So what he's saying is that she has a power over his emotions. Wow. Think about that. You make me, because you have great power over me. You make me so mad. Please stop doing this. Okay? All right? That's your own personal witchcraft voodoo going on inside of your persona that prevents you from just dialing in and saying, hey, I allow myself to project or to kind of deflect, put this stuff somewhere else instead of looking at it, the truth. You always want to look at truth, face on. Fear will come to you, but in most cases, it's not real. In the essence of energetic fields, in the essence of life, and the thoughts and anxieties and, all these things that happen. It's a runaway freight train mind. And all of a sudden, with all these fearful thoughts that we have, all of a sudden, the next thing you know, people are having these panic attacks. Well, that's because those thoughts, the body doesn't know anything other than to think that that's all real. So it has a believable response, if you will, okay? And as it does this, and it tries to relate itself to other things. So if this has been a habit where, we, rather than facing these fears and knowing that we are more than, and that it has no power, this fear makes me cower. No, it has no power, okay? So it can't keep you. You can't blame circumstance. You can't blame people. It just doesn't work when it comes downright to making the necessary adjustments, the necessary changes, the incessant dialogue that you must reform in order to get better results so rapidly, so quickly. You have to change everything. Everything. It's a lot. You have to start changing the way you think. Every time you think something that was getting you the result that you don't want anymore, you have to shift it. Bam, just like that. Boom. You have to get so good at that. How do you? Because you got to beat it. You got to beat it. It's beatable. You got to... Beating the demons of distraction. That's a good feeling. Beating the demons of distraction. And when we look upon this, like I was talking about, this conglomerate, this collective, possibly, and when I say collective, it's energy feeding on energy like that, okay? And it's very fearful. And then it's coming right to you in a screen, your TV, your computer, your phone, other people, are doing the same thing. And it's almost like when you see that movie, Apocalyptica, and he says, Apocalyptica, and he says, don't look in their eyes, don't see the fear in their eyes or whatever like that. There's a line in there. And, really, it's just, it feeds on, and that's what this dark energy feeds on, is, this insatiable doubt of self, this insatiable distractive material that keeps so many people from rising in a thought process, in a being process, in a dialogue of communicating, speaking stick examples, okay, like that, learning how to communicate effectively with others that doesn't bring in drama no more. It does not do anything in order to make change. You think about all the things that are going on in the world, and then you want to think about what would make the greatest change. If every single person would do exactly what I'm talking about here, in their way, in their place, in their own environment, but knowing that they are the master of themselves to become the very best and highest. And when that happens, there certainly is this spiritual umbrella, this Christ-like umbrella, this God umbrella, this universal umbrella, this light umbrella, this healing umbrella, okay? This energy field that we get to be able to live in, which is conducive to the overall, which will suffocate the collective negativity. And then see, what darkness cannot comprehend the light. Kind of going off.
Well, so you kind of talked about, well, said a lot. So sometimes there's really good areas of being, we're all creative, and so I think this way of life right now with a lot of humans, and I'm guilty of this, is we kind of live our life in a fantasy land where our thoughts go so far out that it becomes a fantasy. And it's almost like, I saw a coworker tell me they like to play this game called Sims, and it's basically you're just playing these people, and you can name them after you, and they have these careers, and you're earning all this money, but it's through a screen. Like you said, it's all this screen. It's everything that you've ever wanted in a computerized version. So you're stuck in this fantasy land, and you hear people, their dreams, and they have these visions, but there's this lack of action. And again, I'm speaking, it's with me as well, and so I have to remind myself all the time. And I think about the last 10 years, and sometimes it might be on a spiritual side. When I look at everything I've done over the last 10 years, majority of it has all been spiritual. If I were to look at all of it, I'm all like, holy crap, this is all just spiritual. And not to say that I haven't boosted my physical, mental, emotional as well, but collectively, I think it's just like, wow, I've gone all in my life because I don't know anything else to do except go straight to spirit every single time. And spirit has helped me get out of a fantasy land. State the facts. You have to state the fact of where you're at, and that's what I want to continue to do, and also become more intense about it and more truthful, because I can state the facts, but okay, then what? You better create action behind it. So if we find ourselves talking in a way of this fantasy land, or our fantasies, our dreams, but not doing anything about it, it is to go look in the mirror and be honest with yourself. And it's something that is reminding me too, like, Alan, continue to do this. You have to, whatever you're disappointed with, you kind of have to get after it and maybe stop talking about it and do something about it. So
I think that's a great example about that game Sims. That's been around a long time. And when you think about, in creative, you use the word, and so in this way of where people can, if you don't know the game Sims, but most people probably do, I'm kind of a little behind when it comes to some of these things, but it's where you can actually put your energy into, if only, almost kind of like that. It's very dreamy, like, but it gives you the practicalities of what, the life that we're living. But if you could change it in real life, but think about this, okay? Think about all that current energy that right now you're experiencing, whatever it is, okay? So putting that energy into that game Sims, okay? What could you do different? Okay? And how could you go about not ending up there? Not saying that it's killing people or anything like that, but think about this, using that as an example to say, what if I were to channel all that into real time, out of the screen, real time, right here, and really make all those changes that you're making in a game in your real life? Imagine that. Imagine being able to channel all that, believing that you could really do it in your own real life, that you really, really can do all these things. But it's not to make up some worldly game. It's not to. It's just knowing that we can do whatever that we desire. And sometimes we're living out our desire of depression. And it's not like, oh, I want that, but somehow something in us through our thought dialogue is telling everything in us, sending those messages. It says, oh, we're supposed to, everything's supposed to keep doing this, which is a depressing state of being. And so when you look at this and then you think, okay, the state of being that I really, really want, well, how does it have to be fed? Because if you're feeding it this way, or if you're feeding it in a physical form of foods that are not conducive to the overall wellness, not saying you have to go strict diet or anything like that, but make the adjustments. And a way to illustrate that is a really great way. Most people have heard this, but they say that when a flight is going like from, the United States to Hawaii or wherever, that it's 90% off course. The other 10% is small, minute adjustments to get it from one destination to another, A to B. And that's what it is. It's making the small, minute adjustments that you can tolerate, that you can do, putting the skin in the game and being more incessant than what was going on previous. More incessant than what was going on previous. More incessant than what's going on right now. How are you going to take all of that negativity? Because if you're taking all that negative energy and you're like, maybe you get on the screen and you see somebody talking about Trump and they look like they're 22 years old, and all of a sudden in 2 seconds I hear, if this MRFer is blah, 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 and it's like, whoa, okay, that's not what I got on my phone for. Okay? But then scroll up to the next. Hey, I started buying this dog food for my dog. Scroll, okay? And so where are we going? Where do you want to go? What are you willing to do differently every single day? How do you become more incessant with a new dialogue of thoughts? It has to start with your thoughts. No matter what, it has to start with your thoughts. If you have a thought that says, oh, this isn't going to work, stop right there. Just stop right there and say, hold it, hold it, hold it. Don't ever lie to me again and say, you know what, no, this is going to work. And you better listen clearly, self. You better listen clearly, real clear, because I'm in charge. I'm not having this autopilot thinking it's running my life. I'm not having this autopilot seemingly attracting things to me without my permission that I'm experiencing, that I'm complaining about. No! Judas Priest, yeah. And you think about what's going on in the world, stop. Go where I tell you, that place inside, the most beautiful, unexplored terrain you will ever come across. Inside, you have to stop. You have to slow down. When you get in there, you just got to be truthful. You've got to be very truthful. When you get in there, you'll start to learn a little bit more about yourself, and the most beautiful unexplored terrain becomes the most familiar, safest, and it is long-lasting. It is eternal. It is the terrain that we forgot when we were born and then ended up where we are today. And we want to be very, very useful in that terrain, because when we understand that terrain, it makes this 3D linear world here that we are experiencing, that I'm talking to you through these lenses, so beautiful, so effective. It doesn't mean we don't have things out there that are like, wow, I wasn't expecting that today, kind of.